All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wonderful people of us of freedom all over the world. Welcome to Expose News TV, your one and only YouTube platform that gives you quality news and information on every activities happening in Biafran territory. Please subscribe to this channel and make sure you turn on your notifications so that you will be notified whenever we drop our spanking news. Breaking news again: tension in Aba as government strike again. Unknown gunmen have actually struck in Aba, Alaoji precisely, and that has been the area of concentration and interest lately because Aba has actually been, on the terrorist list of places where the Nigerian government wants to bring down. So many controversies have been coming up. In fact, with the information that has been happening for over a week now or 2 weeks is that Aba resident has been on constant lockdown concerning the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, who has been abducted by the Nigerian government. Aba has been part of the numerous cities that have been clamoring for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. On that note, they've stood their ground by making sure that they let out their voices by sitting at home, not being enforced to sit at home, but they are sitting at home out of their own will, just to prove to the government that they really want their brother Nnamdi Kanu and the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra to be released. Now, despite all these, what we've been getting in Aba recently is from one tension to the other, from one pandemonium to the other, from one attack to the other. First of all, the attack on the Nigerian military that resulted, to the Kpai of innocent Aba youth, to the extent that most of them were abducted. We saw a video on social media where so many of them were being, were being put in an armored tank, and so many families have come out to respectfully call for the federal government concerning their loved ones, because we've not seen any incident or any way that their loved ones have been released, and this is something to be concerned of. So looking at this incident that happened at Alaoji, still within the same exit where these whole issues have been coming up in Aba, let us give you the news in detail before we continue with the issue that we are about to address today, because the issue to be addressed is a really controversial issue. But meanwhile, make we hear the news in detail. The news reads: reports of sporadic gunshots have been flooding in from the Alaoji flyover axis of the Aba-Port Harcourt Expressway, sparking fears of potential casualties. An eyewitness who spoke to News Mirror on condition of anonymity, describing the tense situation, urging motorists and residents to exercise extreme caution. Details about the perpetrators and the motive behind the shooting remain unclear at this time. Authorities have yet to comment on the incident. As the situation unfolds, commuters are advised to avoid the area and seek alternative routes. This is a developing story, and we will prove update as more informations become available. And based on this information that we are giving across to every Biafran, especially those who are residing within that region, you have to be careful, concerning that axis. So if you're within the axis of Alaoji, Aba, and Osisioma axis, you have to be very careful at this point and make sure that you find another alternative, because we've noticed a sporadic shooting in that region. This continues to go on and on in Biafran land, Aba precisely, and Enugu Another region that has been under this sporadic shooting, Imo State, has been on constant shooting from these unknown gunmen. And honestly speaking, if the government is ready to save the people, the least they can do is to heed to what the people want. You cannot continue to fight against the masses. Instead, the least you can do is to listen to the voice of the masses. The least you can do is to give the masses what they truly want. You cannot continue to fight the masses. Do not forget that the masses speak louder and their voices will always stand. Now let us go to the video that we are going to play to every Biafran today. And what video is this? A video of a Biafran fighter who has come out to speak extensively in a live interview on national television on some pressing issues. And one of those issues is still the ongoing insecurities that is happening in the Biafran territory. Please do not forget to share this video to as many groups and platforms. That is the least you can do at this point in time.
But there's crisis coming to this country. Fuel, petrol will be one of the causative agents of revolution in Nigeria, because we can't explain it. Why we continue to import finished product in a country that has 4 refineries plus this new one of a private one, and yet we are talking about, importing fuel. Something must be fundamentally wrong.
Let's begin with the efforts to get the leader of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, out of incarceration. What's the update on that?
Well, it's a topic I'm very passionate about, very, very. I had seen him in the DSS cell 2 times, and each time it was a very emotional moment for both of us. I've been with him in the court premises, about 2 or 3 times, and I've spoken there. We had a joint press conference on one occasion. I don't know why. I think it's something you can summarize as hate. And you can't find a reason for the hate other than making reference back to Muhammad Buhari's period, who organized and arrested him in Kenya. He must have a special reason why he did what he did, because other people had the same problem. There's a young man who was also arrested in Benin Republic or so, and later came back here after Buhari left office. But if Boko Haram people, bandits who regularly kill people in this country, are being given amnesty by the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and in some cases rehabilitate them, why hold Nnamdi Kanu, who had publicly assured government, if you let me go, I will help you increase security in the southeast and any other part you might require my services? They would have taken a risk on that. But as we speak, they are still granting amnesty to Boko Haram people who kill hundreds of people on a regular basis. Why hold him? Do you remember when last you heard of somebody dying in the southeast because of Nnamdi Kanu? That's a long time ago. And people were doing it, as a way of making money, using his name. And he said that severally. On one occasion, he told me to speak on his behalf, and on this platform, I said so. So a government alone can explain, especially for somebody like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who himself was a revolutionary in some sense. He understands what freedom means. He understands what democracy means, because he fought for it. I don't know where he's coming from now. It's difficult to explain where he's coming from, honestly.
All right, Chief, let's go to the end bad governance protest that just, happened recently. And we understand the Southeast didn't join in this protest. Is it true that the Southeast observed sit at home and preferred that to join in the protest? And I'm asking this because even the release of Nnamdi Kanu was one of the demands of the protesters, but the Southeasterners just chose not to join that protest. Why?
Well, before I get to answering that, sometimes it's good to look at the antecedents of people in government. And I put my mind back to 1960, from America, from JFK to Johnson to Nixon to Ford to the Peanut president to Reagan to Bush Sr., to Clinton, to Bush Jr., to Obama. and then down to Trump, then Biden now. None of them has been it's either you're a senator or a governor. At least I made back to 1960. This is the first time in this country and in the world that you see people coming to power. He was a legislator. Our president, Ahmed Tinubu, was a senator of the Federal Republic and 8 years governor of Lagos State. His vice presidential candidate was a senator of the Federal Republic and 8 years governor of Borno State. His wife, the first lady of this country, was a senator of the Federal Republic. The chief of staff of this government was Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives. So they come with superlative, attributes of legislative and executive reference. And in fact, you can also extend it to the fact that they have also captured the judiciary. So what is their problem? It is difficult to explain what their problem is because people are demonstrating. Is it that people are not hungry? I'm hungry. When I declared myself hungry, hitherto when I go to my town with X amount of money, apart from, buying cola nuts and drinks for people who visit me, I now go with sufficient amount of money because people who were not asking me for help were not asking for help. And I regard my community as, you can't count 5 towns in this country without counting my town, where we had a good, successful middle class. But there is so much problem. If there could be so much problem at Nnewi, then many other towns must be in trouble. So why they should have ordinarily set up a committee to identify why did these young men protest? What were they protesting? And they itemized their reasons. And we could see the government making every serious effort to infiltrate them. You tear gas to your citizens. You kill them because they protested. Is that leadership? For a man who led protests in this country against a government, a democratically elected government, and you're doing exactly the same. Sometimes I doubt if there is hope. I'm not one of those who spread, malignant pessimism against Nigeria, no. I believe there is hope for the future, but what I'm seeing now does not offer hope for the future.
And to my question.
Sorry?
As to why the Southeast didn't join but observed.
Well, why should you think the South issues? That we're already an occupied territory. If we had raised that is why they won or fight against terrorism in Northeast and Northwest. It's not working because more than 20% of the Nigerian armed forces are in the Southeast. Every inch of the ground is occupied. You cannot run more than 20, 30 kilometers anywhere in the Southeast without 2 or 3 checkpoints. Army, police, Air Force, and if you go further down, then the Navy joins them. And I personally advise, I have a network, say, don't you dare. Because what happened in 1973 as I was leaving the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, that was the second graduation after the Civil War. They introduced this National Youth Service Corps. I was the first set of National Youth Service Corps. And the whole university said, we'll burn down the university. Why am I that? They are now doing it to increase the years of suffering of the Igbos. That the 2.5 years of the war was not enough. They now want to add us extra year. And a military officer, who incidentally was not Igbo, a Northerner, called me and said, 1 year, if that is the sacrifice your people will make for the stability of Igbo land, you can afford to do it. Don't allow any blood to be shed here. And at the Freedom Square, I got up. Then Professor Codlinia was the vice chancellor. I got up and spoke to the students, and everybody walked away. And we went for youth service. Where are we today? Every other part of this country, they are doing youth service. But it was actually directed for a particular people. And we refused to bow. So I told people, if you don't have need to demonstrate, we're already where we are. There are Igbos across this country who joined the demonstration, and you saw them on television, on your network, speaking in Kaduna, in Lagos, Ibadan, every other place. But in Igbo land, I said no. Because when they open fire there, it will be disastrous. So I thank God that we didn't join, at least at home. But we expressed interest and support outside Igbo land.
Chief, the protest has held. And I think it was on Sunday morning after the protest, I think that was day 4 of the protest, that the president came out to speak to the nation about the protests. How do you, I'm sure you listened to that speech.
Yes. Well, I watched it live, and I watched the commentary of many people. I think it was Wole Soyinka who said it was rubbish. Yes, that's the word he used. And so many other people. Afani Ferre condemned it in totality, giving it different reasoning about true federalism. That was not what the president was talking about. I would have expected somebody at that level where your citizens, under your own watch, let me not say under your authority. I don't know how they give authority to the police to act. Police will tell you they're acting in self-defense when they see that they are being attacked. But we also saw the police with vehicles, pro-government demonstrators coming to the stadium. We saw them being, your network showed them being given money, and they infiltrated and joined the regular, the honest protesters, and they started tear gassing them. So what I'm saying is that it's difficult to explain why the president on that speech would not have said, okay, you have demonstrated, you have protested, because protest is about, problems, unresolved grievances. That is what protest is all about. If I say that, oh, Kunle and Nkoli, what you're doing, I start protesting here. It's one man protest, but there's something I'm trying to emphasize for people to notice, to take notice of. You would have itemized, first is hunger, that they are hungry. Is he telling me that he lives in London, that he doesn't know that his citizens are hungry? I'm setting up a committee in the next 4 days to address this. For all the items you listed, give me 2 months to start effectively addressing them. That would have meant something to, even if you didn't finally do it in 2 months, people will know that you're actively and seriously reacting to the protest. But when you look at his broadcast, it was neither here nor there. He couldn't be bothered, as if he was, how can really they be bothered? How many times has he been in Paris? That was the last time he was there for about almost 2 or 3 weeks. So some of them rule us from foreign land, go to Dubai, and they won't create a Dubai, Paris here. Or they will always run into the plane and go there, shamelessly, I must say. So I would have expected him, directly answering your question, to itemize the demands of the protesters and address them, which wasn't done.
Now, one of the demands of the protesters is the reversal of fuel subsidy removal, that government should bring it back. In fact, one of the protesters said, well, if we cannot go forward, then let's go back to where we're coming from, But I've also listened to the executive try, frantically to explain why going back and bringing back subsidy may not be the best. If our refineries start producing and we increase, our production locally, that all these prices may be forced down, whether or not fuel subsidy is brought back or not. So let's get your take on that.
Look, what Tinubu has done in the past couple of weeks is what I call situational politics, the politics of convenience. How can you go to, what square do we call it in Abuja here? Eagle Square, what? What is the square where they normally do parade here? Eagle Square. And you make a pronouncement, you're removing subsidy. One would have expected a very intelligent politician to say, today I'm making an announcement, removal of fuel subsidy. In the next 4 days, in the next 1 week, a committee is already at work to look at the modalities of doing this so that Nigerians will not suffer. It will not go from fry pan to fire. He didn't say that. He just removed subsidy. He just floated the naira. That shows you a lack of planning and understanding. And that's why I gave the background. Look at the people with him in government. All of them with legislative and executive experience. So they are not coming to this office as Johnny just come. They know where they were coming from and where they were going. But when you look at their pronouncement, then you seriously don't have hope for my country in terms of leadership. It's a big pity.
In other words, you're supporting, bringing the petrol subsidy back, or getting other,
it depends on
other things done to cushion the impact.
I have never been in the oil business, but I have known many people who feed out of the oil business illegally, corruptively. Most of the corruption in this country is in oil. It is a way of life. Governments know it. Either those stealing at the wharf or on the high seas, it is effectively aided by government. Because if government wants to stop oil theft, they will do it. What are our navies doing? Are we at war anywhere? We have navy ships all over the place. And still people come and collect hundreds of barrels, thousands of barrels of oil and leave our shores. And they tell us stories. because it's serious money. They are talking of very serious money on a daily basis. So sometimes they will catch and, like in those days when you see police announce that they have caught some armed robbers, then these are armed robbers they didn't know, that they didn't tell them where they were going. It was that bad with the Nigeria police in the 50s, in the 60s and 70s. Because the police is so active that wherever you go to steal, they will catch you. But the ones they know, they will pretend as if they didn't know what happened. Go and steal from a police barrack. 24 hours, they will catch you. Wherever those thieves come from, they will catch them.
Okay, Chief, we're going to go on a break now, but we'll continue with this interview after we are done with Kakaki Social. So we ask you to just stay with us. We'll be back. So we'll take a number of issues concerning the End Bad Governance protest. And I'd like to find out from you as we close. The Chief of Defense Staff came out to speak to protest, to warn protesters at some point that the military will not brook any act of treason or whatsoever from any of the protesters. And at a time when Nigeria has greater issues with security, especially all across the northeast, the northwest, and virtually all across the country. So what are your concerns concerning insecurity there?
Well, I will start by saying that, the past 9.5 years, I'm not trying to shield PDP, but it wasn't that bad. The past 9.5 years, the APC as a party has been spreading an epidemic of dishonest misinformation to Nigerians. It is that epidemic that crystallized itself, unfortunately, under Tinubu, that led to the riots you're seeing, the protest, everything heightened up. 8 years of Buhari was a disaster. I've said it severally. People who, some friends of mine, I had said it once on this platform. 2015, the Channels Television, I had a major 1-hour interview with them, and I said this will be a disaster if this man becomes president of Nigeria, because I had the misfortune of meeting him as chairman of PTF with my late cousin, Major General Sam Moma, and I couldn't know where he was coming from. And this man eventually catapulted himself. Under the military, yes, anything goes, but to become president of Nigeria, and you saw the 8 years wasted. So if, as it were, it was a political bastardization, that nothing worked, nothing happened. But Tinubu was washing it. He made matters worse by saying that he will continue with the good works of Muhammadu Buhari. Maybe it's a political statement. But it's now seen that the tragedy that was Buhari, even if you had put in P2B or Atiku or anybody else, probably they will have different modalities of trying to come out of the problem. The problem was so much that you needed very strong, intellectually placed people to sit down and look at the disaster Buhari caused to this country. So it will still take time before we can come out of the woods, but we need honesty. And this honesty supposes that government must speak with one voice, but you don't know who is speaking. There's somebody that we have a press secretary, there's this one that was insulting P2B, I don't remember his name. Different comments coming from government, which you can't explain, in a difficult situation we have in this country. Mr. President, if you are the only one that will speak, please let us hold you accountable and quote you. Because we can't be quoting your this by insulting people. You don't insult people. You don't solve problems by insulting people. You have to, squarely face the problems and itemize your solutions to them. And this is the first sample of what is going to come. Because if they don't do anything to solve this problem, then it will be a disaster. I think reference to the Chief of Defense Staff, I was amazed. Having been an officer in the Biafran Army, each time I see soldiers, I feel excited. But when a soldier becomes a politician by making commentaries that he shouldn't make, we have a Minister of Information. That was a National Security Council that just finished meeting. Even if a soldier was to speak, not the Chief of Defense Staff, we have a military spokesman who is a Major General. He didn't talk. And the Chief of Defense Staff just came out and rather ruthlessly, they will deal with those who want to truncate democracy. I wish he would use the same force to deal with those who are already truncating democracy in Northeast and Northwest, which is their primary responsibility. Because, gallant at the rear. What would civilians demonstrating? What would they do? I didn't see of anybody arrested with weapons, either AK-47. If there was, I do apologize, but I didn't hear any of your networks talk of somebody arrested with weapons, they're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. So why make reference to those trying to truncate democracy, just for the sake of saying something, when the main problem holding this country down is in the Northeast and Northwest? So I thought it was an unfortunate comment for him.
Okay, Chief, you're always very vocal, and that's why sometimes when you talk, there may be a misunderstanding about what you say. There appears to be a misunderstanding of a recent interview you granted where you were referring to Tinubu as having won the 2023 election, and you said with common sense. Could you clarify what you meant by that?
That's what I call speculative literature. It's part of social science. Two of you may not have been classmates, and it was Arise Television that I had an interview with. You may not have been classmates, but you find yourself every morning. Nigerians look forward to listening to you. They learn something from your commentary, from your questioning, from your attitude. They learn something. This is common sense. Common sense of knowing where to be at a particular point in time. What you want. You need common sense to pass 1, 2, 3, 4 secondary schools, and you choose A or B. That gives you an advantage because of your common sense. Sometimes that common sense might not be common, because if it was common, people would pick it on the street. It is not common. But it is that common sense that energizes you to think properly and apply that knowledge into your future. That's what I was trying to explain. That you don't look at Buhari out of Tinubu out of 270 million people, and he suddenly, it wasn't a coincidence, it wasn't whatever, that he became president of Nigeria. He planned it. And he said it, that it is his turn, even though it was a statement I regarded as foolish. But he realized it when he said it was his turn. Nigerians did nothing. A few people may have commented, this is not your father's compound. I was among those who said, even if it's your turn, you should discuss with your brethren, your brothers and sisters, whether indeed it's your turn. But you could be head of your family by Igbo succession, the first son. When the father dies, become the head of the family. That one is your turn. But to tell me that it's your turn to be president of Nigeria. Today, he's president of Nigeria, so maybe it's his turn. So when it's nearing 2027, I'll probably have an interview to say also it is my turn, and hope people can help me raise funds. Because if I'm president, both of you will benefit, and you will surely benefit.
Oh, God. Anyway, Chief, before we go, let's quickly. We're seeing you for the first time since the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. What are your thoughts on that? Have you had a chance to look at that
it's difficult
judgment?
to know if the Supreme Court is now a legislative body. Because I know the Constitution of Nigeria talks about a joint state and local government account where money should be paid in. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I know the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria says money from local government will be paid into a joint account of the state and the local government, where even the state government will pay in some money, and they share it for the purposes of development in the local government. So what was the Supreme Court trying to do? Create or explain, because their job is to explain the Constitution of the Federal Republic, if there is conflict.
Interpret.
To interpret it, as it were. So was there any conflict that they were trying to interpret? That money should be now paid direct to local government. How about the Constitution that says there is a joint account that money should be paid in? Because if that one is allowed to stand, the Supreme Court can also, one day, maybe the government goes to court, and they said the INEC should conduct direct elections in local government, in states. It is possible. Because if nobody challenges this, that's a constitutional provision that says you pay money into this account. And the Supreme Court said, no, now you pay direct to local government. Exciting as good as it is, but that's not the constitutional process. That's a process to have changed that, and it's not the responsibility of the Supreme Court to do that.
But the Constitution also recognizes the local government as the third tier of government.
Yes. Recognizing that it still says money for local government should be paid into a joint account between the state and the local government. The Constitution does not say money should be paid directly to them. So why did the Supreme Court create that? I'm not an attorney. So if I'm wrong, I apologize, but At least I understand simple English, and I read it well. So I didn't see why. It's a very dangerous precedent they have set, because if they have to explain out Nigerian constitution as it is, convenient for them, they will use it in some other areas that any other, mischievous government will want to, and it becomes a one-party state. That's what happens in Soviet Union, where they have a democratic centralism. Just like you see the young men demonstrating, carrying flag. I was listening to people. It's a simple explanation that capitalism has failed. They want socialism. They believe the socialist system in the East, Russia, China, and all the rest of them, that people have free food, free accommodation. That is what the Russian flag was indicating, that Russia has nothing to do with it. It's just the nature of the government there that, people go hungry in the West. They don't go hungry in the East. True or false, but that is the belief we have about socialism. So those carry, especially in Kanu and Kaduna, carrying flags of Russian flags, it's just giving us an indication there's an alternative to the system we're operating now. And that system is better to them. It's untested in this country, but true or false, they have a reason. And you don't challenge somebody's personal views.
Okay, we'll be going in just a minute or two, but let me ask you what you think the government should do now to address the demands of the protesters, at least to ensure there's no other protests regarding bad governance in the country, from your own perspective.
You see, when you combine what I call, bad political participation or bad political thinking, you combine it with an unyielding wave of arrogance, it leads to political blindness. You are wrong, and you know you are wrong. You're trying to justify it. There's nothing else government can do if sincerely they love this country. They love the people of this country. If for the president to now go back, sit down and look at all the demands of Nigerian people, including me. And, set out committees, announce committees. They haven't done it yet. Announce committees outside the Federal Executive Council that will address this problem and give them time lag. That's the only solution. There's no other magic. And then Nigerians will say, oh, he is seriously now addressing the reasons why people protested in the first place. So that we'll avoid this unnecessary killing, unnecessary tear gassing of people. That's unfortunate.
The CNG buses are already being rolled out, the hybrid buses. Isn't
Sorry?
that? I said the government has already released about 100, right?
No,
20,
30 actually.
30 CNG buses already, a hybrid
Well, I haven't seen, I live in
buses.
Enugu, I haven't seen one.
Oh, that's in Abuja for a start.
Okay, Abuja is not Nigeria. It's
They
only
were
part of
commissioned yesterday by the president.
it. You see? And they have been making noise about it for the past 1 month. That about, there are hundreds, the news, I heard even from your station, hundreds of it have been released to states. And I have taken time to go around, saw the government in Enugu, I haven't seen one. Because if a government should do something like that, in a day, you make sure that even if you're sending one, make sure you send one to the 36 states, so that you get to any capital city, you see one of such buses or whatever they are. But, to anticipate without any reality, it's even more dangerous than not doing at all.
Okay, Chief Danulasi, before, yes, I remember now that I was trying to, some of the comments that we had on the newspaper review, I want to, since you're a member of the PDP, let me quickly ask you before we go. One of our reviewers did say that he wasn't sure that the PDP was still the vibrant party that it used to be, and he said that in reference to the goings-on in River State, wondering why the PDP would allow such goings-on to happen in a state of that has that level of importance to the PDP. How do you respond to that?
Well, you see, I would not like to comment on my party publicly, especially in the situation we find ourselves. Every leadership has its own shortcomings, or what I may call shortcomings. They have their style and their modalities of functioning. So, the problem of Wike and River State have also come into PDP on the national level. So you don't even know who is directing the party, for whose interest the party is working. I just heard that my name was put into National Reconciliation Committee. I was informed. Okay, at least I was informed beforehand. So maybe when I have another interview, if I attend the Reconciliation Committee, I will know what it's all about. it will be my interest. I joined PDP because of Alex Ekweme. I remained in one party. Most people in this country have moved. Look at all the people, somebody 8 years as PDP governor jumps into APC. From APC, they jump here. So you don't even have any factual reference on integrity. What does the person believe? You don't know what he believes. This is why I want to say it again. I have respect for people like Tinubu, and even he poorly performed Muhammadu Buhari. You knew he was in APC, and they remained there. I'm in PDP. I have not changed party. But that will not stop me if my party brings up a bad candidate. I'll support another candidate. That's an individual preference.
But Chief, how do you think this impacts on internal party democracy? Because the bedrock of democracy actually is the political parties.
Yes.
Now, how does this impact on the parties
Even in the
generally? No, it's not just the PDP now.
There's free will. You have right to air your own view within the constitutional process of the party. It is not an anti-party activity. When the party makes it impossible for its members to express their view, that is when anti-party starts. Like you're in a primary. Some group of leaders must have decided that Kunle will be governor in Anambra State. And they don't give the others the opportunity to express their voting right. That is when problem begins. And it is the party that begins that kind of problem. So ordinarily, I don't think we have any problem other than style of leadership.
So basically what you're saying is that the problem is with the practitioners, not with the parties.
Not with the party. Nothing has changed in PDP. Nothing has changed. Even with all our problems, like I said earlier, we have 13 state governors. Recently, they were in Enugu for PDP governors meeting. I attended their dinner. And they were all very vibrant and happy, looking forward. Most of them were saying, "Oh, God, why don't you come in and see what we can do to push the party forward?" I said, well, I'm getting old. I'm not as young as you used to know me. Let's, encourage the younger ones to move forward and do something for the party. I don't believe that it has to be, that kind of a regeneration of one, at the time it's one group of persons. No, there has to be other people to be able to help. But if they are interested, they can ask questions and they will be directed how better to do things for the overall interest of the party and the country.
All right, Chief, since we're talking about really state of the nation, let's go to the oil sector. Even though I know that you're not an oil businessman, but the issue of refinery not working in the country seems to be one of the problems the country is having. Our own local refineries, we've been told severally that they will start operating. At the Port Harcourt refinery, in fact, we were told that before Yuletide, or was it after Yuletide, it will start working. And today, we are in August, almost the year coming to an end without that refinery working. And then we also have another local refinery. We're told that the government even has a stake in it, which is that owned by Dangote. And today we're also having issues about whether crude will be given to Dangote or not. I don't know what you think about it as a Nigerian citizen, and how it is impacting the lives of the people.
I will only make one statement. The corruption headquarters of Nigeria is in the oil industry. And it's so unfortunate that in all cases, the presidents of this country at various levels, PDP or APC or whatever, have also been oil ministers. From the military till today, probably more than $1 billion must have been set aside for Port Harcourt refinery. And up to today, I had an announcement, I think we have 2 ministers of state now, one of them saying that before Christmas, so the oil refinery will be ready. The one built by a private individual is not being given oil, and he was importing oil until the president directed recently that they should give him oil and sell to him in Naira. But if this is a country of some reasoning process, some intellectual content, if there are people in the oil producing food, if it's a woman using motorcycle, she buys petrol at a high cost, carries her food, comes to the market, has to increase, put the cost of the fuel, everything that she has paid extra money. You have to pay for it when you're buying your gari or rice or whatever. So it has a multiplicity of effects that unknowingly there is no statistical evidence to lay it down that this is how this price is. And when they rise generally everywhere. We showed it's a vicious circle that government has to address. And it summarizes again what we said. There's no way government can address it than sitting down to set up serious-minded committees, not ministers, serious-minded professionals who will honestly tell government these are the problems, this is the way we can solve it, and if the president is willing and has the courage to implement such decisions, because one thing is to find out what the problem is, offer solutions, and nobody has courage to implement it. I think that's part of the problem of this country, because we have, reports on virtually every aspect of Nigerian problem in all the ministries. They feel everywhere. We would have paid billions of naira in one report, in one committee, something or the other, and yet the same problem continues reoccurring, and we look like fools. So there must be something fundamentally wrong somewhere that people don't want these countries to survive. That is my conclusion.